Hi, I'm Marty Shupak. Welcome to Jets Rewind Plus. This is where I get to put out my own game plan, for better, for worse. Feel free to make comments. You could give me a thumbs up. We'd love it. Subscribe. If you want to make a comment, I don't know what I'm doing, that's fine too. I've been a Jet fan since 1964, and I live and die with this team, just like many of you. So let's get started right away. We're going to go over the Jets on defense and what I feel they have to do to win this game. Now, keep in mind, this is a very, very winnable game. The AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals have come off two losses. The offensive line is reeling. They've given up 13 sacks in two games. Joe Burrow is a brilliant quarterback. Make no mistake, he is the best player on the field. He will be the best player on the field tomorrow. Joe Burrow he had one of probably the best college seasons I ever saw for a quarterback when he was at LSU. However, and Ralph Schrager brought this out on our regular Jets Rewind, our last podcast. Unfortunately, he seems to be on track to mirror the career Andrew Luck had, where he's getting beat up ever since he stepped foot on the NFL field every single game. He had that injury the first year, and it would be unfortunate because he is a wonderful quarterback to watch, and the Jets have to stop him. With all the issues, and I'm going to get into it now, with the injuries the Bengals have, this guy is a sharp quarterback. He may hold the ball a little too long. The first game against Pittsburgh, he had a number of turnovers and interceptions, but this guy I consider him an elite quarterback. All right, let's get right down into it. And again, I just write down the players. If I have them on the wrong side, it's okay. I just want to list the players that are starting. I'm going to go into now what the Jets have to do to win this game. First off, the Jets safeties. I have Joyner and Whitehead. They missed a combined 8 tackles. It's not acceptable. Okay? LaMarcus Joyner, I don't think he should be on the field, to be honest with you. If it was up to me, and I'm not an Ashton Davis fan, but the fact that he came in and made that interception, and listen, that interception was huge to end the game. Make no mistake, the Browns were about a play away from having a field goal attempt from their strong leg kicker, who also went to LSU, who won the game the week before on a 58-yarder. Ashton Davis read the quarterback's eyes, did a great job. The knock on him has been that he takes terrible angles, and he just seems to be a step behind. But with what we've seen from LaMarcus Joyner, Robert Saleh has got to make a change. You have to be proactive with your personnel if you want to compete. I've seen Bill Parcells take players out in the middle of the game. I've seen Bill Belichick take players out in a first quarter because he didn't like what he saw. And an old story, Chuck Noll, the late, great coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he said towards the end of his coaching career, his biggest mistake was staying loyal to the guys that helped him win the 4 Super Bowls, or in that case, like the last 2 Super Bowls. Robert Saleh has got to put players, mix and match players on the field that produce. He's got to make them accountable. You got to bench LaMarcus Joyner. He's a horrible tackler. He's been around for a few years. He hardly played. He was a Pro Bowler a number of years ago. He's just not the same. Get him off the field. They don't have great alternatives, but I would try Ashton Davis. If not, they kept this undrafted rookie, Tony Adams. Let's see what he has. Okay, put in Ashton Davis. You have to be aware of the screen passes, okay? What's going to happen is the Bengals, their right tackle, Lyle Williams, is hurt. Now, he might play hurt, and the reason being his contract is incentivized for games played. In other words, they gave him incentives in the compensation for the number of games he's played. But he's been awful. Okay, he came from Dallas, and he's been bad. Lyle Williams, I actually think it's in the Jets' best interest if he does play. Because if there's any game during the year where the Jets defense should get some sacks, this is the game. Okay? But you have to watch out for the screen passes. What I think is going to happen, they have great receivers. They have Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Look for the Bengals. If I was the Bengals coach, my game plan would be to overload the receivers on one side. I'd overload them on the left because the Jets' best defensive player, DJ Reed, his best side is the right side. So if I was the Bengals, I'd overload the receivers on the left. I'd move the tight end, Hayden Hurst, to the other side. And I would then watch out for Hayden Hurst going over the middle. Listen, great coaches will always attack the weaknesses of their opposition. The weaknesses of the Jets are the linebackers being baited on draw plays and screen passes and their safeties. So watch out for the Bengals to put Joe Mixon in a position, and he runs the screen pass very well. Okay. I touched on this last week. We have Quincy Williams, who's a phenomenal athlete. I would put in Jamie Sherwood there as linebacker just because he's smarter. He could smell out the screen pass better. Quincy Williams, to me, is a tremendous athlete who's a situational player. He could get a pass rush, but he's terrible on coverage, and he gets suckered in on screen passes. He had a very good first game, not so good the second game. And I think a combination of him and Mosley in there at the same time. Mosley's getting caught on coverage also. Quan Alexander has been playing very well. This guy was a really good signing. I never thought he'd play as well as he's playing. All right, so put in Jamie Sherwood. Also, the Jets signed a free agent, Jacob Martin. He gets $6 million guaranteed. He's just not producing. The Jets are not getting a pass rush. Okay, for whatever you say, Carl Lawson is really good, but he doesn't look like the player we all thought he should be. I would not activate Jacob Martin, and you got to activate Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff had a very good preseason. He's been deactivated for 2 games. You got to put your team in a position to win. Bryce Huff deserves to be out there. And I think Jacob Martin deserves to be seated. Ralph Schrager, a co-host of Jets Rewind, he thinks Jermaine Johnson right now is over his head that he should be benched, or deactivated. But at this point, I would give Jermaine Johnson another week. I would deactivate or not activate Jacob Martin. Okay, I mentioned watch Hayden Hurst going over the middle. And our linebackers and safeties have to step up. The Bengals this year, the 2 losses, they have always played better, both games in the second half. Okay. I would do some stunts and I would blitz too. Let's make it difficult for Burrow, the quarterback. Okay. I put they'll overload one side. I mentioned Lyle Collins, the tackle. He's hurt. It looks like he might play. The other weak link, surprisingly, Jonah Williams, who was great at Alabama, he was a first-round draft pick. He hasn't been playing good at all. So these are the weak links, the 2 tackles. I expect Lawson, and if Franklin Myers is playing, because he was a little nicked up, I expect him to have a good game. The guards on Cincinnati, Kappa and Volson, they're pretty good. And the center, Karras, I think he's a little overrated. He's good. I think he's a little overrated. Quinn Williams, he could have another good game. Again, Quinn Williams is a player I would keep on the field. I mentioned this last week in Jets Rewind Plus. Robert Saleh loves to rotate the defensive line, keep him fresh. I really believe if the defensive line, if he has him pegged to play like 50% of the plays, Quinn Williams, you have to keep him on the field for like 70 to 80% of the plays. The guy is a very good player against the run. So far, he's having a very good season. He went off the field last week because of a knee/ankle injury, but he came right back on. Keep Quinn Williams on the field. So that's about it. We're going to get to the Jets offense in just a minute. Again, make no mistake, Joe Burrow is the best player on the field, okay? They have three great receivers. Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd has not really done that well right now. Hayden Hurst is a pretty good tight end. And Joe Mixon is a very good running back who is really tough on the screen passes. They have to watch those screens over the middles. And again, this is a very winnable game for the Jets. It really is. Keep in mind, we all know they won last year with White, and he picked them apart, throwing underneath. The Jets personnel is a lot better than it was last year. We're catching the Bengals at a great time where their offensive line is reeling. So that's it on the Jets defense. We'll get to the offense in just a moment. Okay, now the Jets on offense against the Bengals defense as I see it. Like everything, when you do a game plan, you want to recognize the opponent's weakness and you want to exploit it. Right now, I really believe the Jets' two best players on offense are Elijah Vera-Tucker, the way he's played the first two games, and Garrett Wilson in the small sample size. So we want to get Garrett Wilson the ball as much as we could, and I'll get into that in a second. But the weak link on the Bengals right now, I believe, is Eli Apple. And Giant fans know about Eli Apple, who's a defensive back. Whoever Eli Apple is covering, that's who I'd throw the ball. So let's say they put a safety, Jesse Bates, on Garrett, and then a Woozy, another defensive back, on Corey Davis. If Elijah Moore is being covered by Eli Apple, he should be open all day. All right? We're all excited about Garrett Wilson, but with the attention he's going to be getting, I expect a lot from Elijah Moore. He's got to catch the ball, and he should be lighting it up also. Okay. On their defense, Trey Hendrickson, the edge pass rusher, is having a lousy season so far. He's got no sacks and only 3 pressures. Now, he's a heck of a player, all right? He's going to get going eventually. George Fant has got to really step up his game. He's had, like, the first game he was awful. Last week he was a little better, but he was just okay. He's got to step it up. Break the Jets might have gotten is they have a linebacker, Jermaine Pratt, who I believe is very underrated. And he was excellent in the Super Bowl, if you remember. But he didn't practice Wednesday. He practiced Thursday. He didn't practice Friday. If he doesn't play, this is a very, very big deal on the Bengals defense. Also, keep in mind, while I'm pointing out here, I believe their best player right now, no offense to Jesse Bates, who's not playing great right now, DJ Reed, the 347-pound, They put him as nose tackle or off the nose. He has been a load against the run, and he could also get penetration. So if AVT could move him, it'd be great. I'm not sure, and I've been on Connor McGovern, if he has it in him to really move this guy. He's like a boulder and a half. Okay, so that's going to be an issue. DJ Reader, and we have to watch Trey Hendrickson, great pass rusher. They're going to blitz more. I promise you, they're going to blitz more. And their defense is not as good as the Browns defense and the Ravens defense. But remember, this is a Super Bowl team. Okay, never mind the 0-2 record. They still have quality players on the team. They have a very, very good coach. My game plan would be throw some short passes to Carter or Breece Hall when he's in there. Get these guys and get Garrett Wilson in space. With Garrett Wilson, I'd like to see them run a jet sweep to him or a little reverse to get him in space. With the running backs, when they're in there, I would try to get them in space over the middle or into the flat, see what they could do. And I want to make a prediction. I really believe Breece Hall is going to break a long one for a touchdown tomorrow, Sunday, against the Bengals, at least 40-plus yards. This guy, you could just see, he's so close to breaking one, and his acceleration is unbelievable. I mentioned the Bengals, they're going to blitz more tomorrow. I mentioned we want to go to the strength. I mentioned Wilson with the jet sweep. What I would do also, instead of putting Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson in the slot, I would put Corey Davis in there. And I've been on Corey Davis because of his drops from last year and his drop the first game on that third down play. He caught that touchdown pass where he was all alone. But the reason I would do that, Corey Davis, I think he's a pretty good run blocker. I think he's better than Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. So I put him in the slot. And keep in mind, because of the size of him, it's going to be easier to see him if there's a pass play, if you send him out, let's say on a route over the middle. But having him in the slot, you're kind of getting another pretty good run blocker, like a tight end. Speaking of tight ends, I would start Tyler Conklin. I really have high hopes for him. He's had a rough beginning with his drops and his fumble. He's due for a big game, so I would start Tyler Conklin. Uzuma, he's going to be playing, and Ruckert should be activated. Ruckert will give you some benefits on blocking. Okay, I mentioned DJ Reader. So that's about it. In summing up, we want to recognize the team's weakness and exploit that. All right. When we went to the defensive side of the ball, I want to blitz a little bit. Our defensive line has got to get some sacks. Okay. So the game plan there would be to blitz more than usual. Don't let Joe Burrow get comfortable. On offense, I want to exploit Eli Apple, get the ball into Garrett Wilson's hands, and try to get the running backs in space. So with that, we're going to close it out for Jets Rewind Plus. That's my game plan. Please subscribe if you like it. Give me a thumbs up. Make some comments, positive or negative. And I should be back next week. I want to keep this format with little or no advertising, because sometimes you listen to these podcasts, 30-minute podcasts, and like 18 minutes is advertising. So make sure you listen after the game Sunday night to our Jets Rewind podcast. For Marty Shupak, until next time.